Well, we begged, we pleaded, we even asked nicely, but Jerry Reinsdorf still decided to make Chris Getz the new White Sox GM. Sports Talk Chicago. Here for Jon Zaghloul. Appreciate all of you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel for more Chicago White Sox and Chicago sports news. Follow us all over at Sports Talk Chicago and hit up our sponsor, Amish Country Farms. Link is in the description below. The day before Chris Getz was hired, we did a program here on Sports Talk Chicago. It was live with Joy Christopoulos, and I kind of went off on the idea that Chris Getz was going to be hired. Sure enough, the next morning, as I just posted the video on YouTube, he was hired, officially. The White Sox wasted no time in letting that report come out and then subsequently hiring him and doing a press conference days later. I find it interesting that it's always the report that gets leaked and then days later they get hired. What a great PR team they have over there in Chicago. I am unbelievably disappointed, and I feel for every White Sox fan seeing and hearing this news and then hearing the explanations behind it. I want to read to you what Jerry Reinsdorf said, because this one, it takes the cake. Quote, "It has become clear to me that Getz will be one of the major candidates alongside these other candidates, and then I started thinking about the speed I owe the fans. I realized that if you bring in somebody from the outside, it's going to take him a year. He's going to have to evaluate everybody in their organization, so you'll lose a year." And the article says Reinsdorf wants to save time. Oh, wow. Instead of looking outside the organization and attempting to catch an outsider up to speed, he wanted somebody who knew the organization and someone who could bring the White Sox back to success without sustaining a long-term rebuild. This article's from NBCSportsChicago.com, and by the way, who owns them partially? Jerry Reinsdorf, okay? So this article is the most flopped up BS PR piece I've ever seen. Might as well be a press release. I write press releases. I understand it. I get it when you're in the media, but this is kind of sad to see. This is NBC Sports Chicago. This is a respected cable channel that provides great content for people. This is a dumb article, and this is sad to read. I can't even get through reading it. They're justifying the quote that he said. Reinsdorf wants to save time. Instead of looking outside the organization and attempting to catch an outsider up to speed, he wanted somebody who knew the organization. This sounds like some presidential speechwriter, some ghostwriter. It sounds like crap. What it sounds like. It's a freaking joke. Thank you for acknowledging and showing to me why the White Sox did what they did. Thank you for the context that I apparently did not know nor understand. I appreciate it. I appreciate the additional context. During the press conference, Reinsdorf was not happy, said that this year was very disappointing for him, very tough for him. You know, Jerry, if it's so tough, then do the right damn thing. If it's so difficult for you, do the right thing. 2023 season for Jerry has been a nightmare. He said it's still a nightmare. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting. So you thought, instead of embarrassing and disgusting, we'll bring up the guy, we'll promote the guy internally who helped cause this mess. I said this on the other video. I'm going to say it again. Name me one thing Chris Getz has done to help the current success of this White Sox team. He was the director of minor league development for years and now was the assistant GM until he became GM. He was the director of minor league development before becoming a GM, and now he's the GM. Out of all these players who have been on this team, who has found success besides Luis Robert? And don't just point out to him. Because for one great player, there have been 15 busts on this team. 15 minimum. And all of them had to pass through the tutelage and the gatekeeping of Chris Getz, who himself was a bust. Sorry to say it, he was. White Sox fans know it deep down. He was supposed to be greater than what he was. Him and Gordon Beckham were supposed to be the middle infield of the future. It clearly didn't work. And this is not being mean. This is the truth. This was talked about back in 2010, 2012. So we got a player as a bust running the minor league development team who produced more busts. And now he's going to be the GM to produce even more busts. It's really sad, and it's really just horrendous. Reinsdorf said this, quote, "The 2023 season was my 43rd year in baseball. It was absolutely the worst season I've ever been through. It was a nightmare. It's still a nightmare. It's embarrassing. It's disgusting. All the bad words you can think of is the way I feel about the 2023 season. It absolutely was just awful. But yet you're the one who did it. You're the one who's responsible to an extent. I mean, yes, the players are the main reason why they're doing bad. More than anything, it's the players and the people who were brought in to construct the roster, like Hahn and Williams. But at the end of the day, Jerry Reinsdorf kept Hahn and Williams in power for years, decades. And Reinsdorf also kept Chris Getz at his post for a number of years, and now he's going to be the GM. This one's bad. I mean, this is a really bad look. The one thing I agree with Jerry about, and I loved this was actually the quote of the day for me. Here's what Reinsdorf said in regards to Tony La Russa. I love this quote. This was great, actually, and I fully agree with Jerry on this. He said, "I'm glad you brought up Tony La Russa," Reinsdorf said to a questioner. "I am so sick and tired of reading that bringing Tony La Russa back was a mistake. Tony La Russa came back in 2021, and does anybody know what we did in 2021? Does anybody remember we won 93 games? We won the division by 13 games. Was that a mistake to bring Tony La Russa back?" This is all a quote. Last year, he was sick. The man had a heart problem. He had cancer. You didn't see the Tony La Russa last year that we saw before that. Jerry laying it out. If only he had that passion for a GM, a correct GM, the White Sox wouldn't be in this mess. I wish he had that passion for the entire team and not just a man. That's the problem. He has passion for his people, but not the teams that he owns. If he had passion like that, this team would be in an entirely different direction. That is a hell of a burn. I love it. Yes, he's right. I am sick and tired of hearing it too. Clearly, especially at this point, you see where the White Sox are. Tony has nothing to do with where they are right now and had nothing to do with their downfall or their tough year in 2022. He is right. Everybody gave him crap. They won 93 games. Then last year, yeah, he got sick. The team was already on the downturn. But you're going to blame Tony and look where they are today? No, the team blows. The players suck. Not a Tony problem. I fully agree with Jerry for that statement. Great statement. One of my favorites of the press conference, probably the only favorite of the conference, because the rest of it was horrible. Nevertheless, this was a mistake. This was a mistake. The real shame, and I'm going to keep emphasizing this, is NBC Sports Chicago writing a quote-unquote news article that justifies why Reinsdorf did what he did. That's why you always got to be careful the sources you read and look up, because if somebody was blindly reading NBC Sports Chicago because that's where they got their news from, they would actually believe this crap. Hey, Reinsdorf wants to save time. Instead of looking outside the organization and attempting to catch an outsider up to speed, he wanted someone who knew the organization and someone who can bring the White Sox back to success without sustaining a long-term rebuild. That is the cringiest statement I've seen in a professional, legitimate, published article. Yikes. I do not envy. Who wrote this article? You know what? I don't want to name their name. I'm not going to do it because I feel bad for them because they were probably instructed to write something of that sort, to appease Reinsdorf, who owns the station. So I don't want to kill that writer. I'm not even going to mention his name. You could find it if you look up the article. I don't want to do that because I understand everybody got to put food on the table. I get it. But my goodness, that's just so sad. So sad to write. My gosh. Yeah, Chris Getz has no business even being in a front office. I don't even know how he got there. I mean, he was a player. He was a bust. I don't know how all of a sudden did he become this great talent guru and evaluator who just rose up the ranks? That's what I want to know. Somebody tell me how that happened. I mean, should we go through the names again? You know, Oscar Colas, Jeremy Mercedes. I mean, we could keep going and going here. Yohan Moncada, who was a total bust and still is to this day. I mean, all these guys who were touted, Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn, all these guys with big name recognition in White Sox circles have done nothing in baseball, have done absolutely nothing as far as accomplishments, with the exception of Luis Robert Jr. He's the only one. Everybody else has been bad. And that's all through Chris Getz. Lucas Giolito had one good year. Dylan Cease had one good year. Eloy Jimenez has been unable to stay on the field and just can't play the outfield, physically speaking. I mean, these are not success stories. These are not things I would want to hang my hat on if I were an executive at all. And yet, it's Chris Getz doing all this to these players, getting promoted for it. Getting promoted for the state of this organization. Because I'll tell you what, although it's Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams with this roster construction, it's Chris Getz in developing these young players. So the White Sox don't even have a core anymore. The core that they put in their resources to have all been busts. So Chris Getz inadvertently is also responsible for this mess. And although Kenny and Rick get fired, he gets promoted. Everybody should have been fired. Everybody. Jerry Reinsdorf should have looked at his entire team from the top down, not just, okay, you two got to go because I'm getting scared of public sentiment. No, everybody had to go. I would even go to the point of minor league managers have to go. Not kidding, because look at these guys. Look at this team. It's clear that from a development perspective, even the managers, even the people at the lowest of the lows in the minor league levels are not helping these guys develop. And look where they are today. Luis Roberts, the only success story. You can't even use him because he wasn't even from here. They signed him out of Cuba. He was already talented, already great. We all saw it, and now it's here and it's come. So it really doesn't even count. Everybody else has been a joke. As I sit here today, I'm so happy the Cubs got rid of Eloy Jimenez. At the time, it looked bad. Jose Quintana for Jimenez and Dylan Cease, but I'll tell you what, really, it has not been a dumb trade. Eloy could barely even play 100 games a year. And Dylan Cease had a great year last year, but he's back to normal this year. Michael Kopech, great guy off the field, tough season this year. And tough career, frankly, up to this point. Carson Fulmer, remember him from Vanderbilt? Where's he now? Not even in baseball. The list goes on and on and on and on. Bust after bust after bust. Big name bust. It just continues in that cycle, and it's Chris Getz responsible for 90% of that. Because he's obviously responsible even for drafting players and drafting talent and scouting and bringing people in, developing them. All of that falls under Chris Getz. So White Sox fans, rest assured, if you think you're going to win again, it won't be because of your prospects or your drafting. Maybe somehow, some way, Getz gets a mandate from Jerry to spend more money. Maybe. Probably not going to happen, but if it does, the only way the White Sox have any opportunity to win is if they sign people in Major League Baseball. Because if you're going to trust Chris Getz to draft more and continue to rebuild their farm system, there's no way it's going to work. Because he couldn't do it before, and he's had countless opportunities to do it. So if you're expecting the next big thing to come up, some big prospect, if you're expecting the White Sox to have a new core in 5 years and do it that way, not going to happen. I wouldn't trust his judgment at all. Because clearly it hasn't worked. I don't blame any White Sox fan for feeling the way they feel. They are so disappointed. I saw it all over Twitter and social media. I know you're mad. I know you're not happy. I don't blame any of you. It is really sad. Really sad. And here's what it says about Getz, too. This is more from Jerry. I wanted baseball taught in the minor leagues a certain way where people understood what they were doing. They understood what's the right thing to do in a certain situation, and nobody ever did it right until Chris came along. And this I observed, a couple of years ago. I was thrilled. I don't know what the hell they're teaching them down there. I don't know what Chris Getz was teaching them then. What was he teaching them? How to flame out in 2 years in Major League Baseball, maybe? I mean, that's probably what he was doing, right? Hey, here's how you can get up the system, then you're going to suck in about 2-3 years. I mean, I don't know what he was teaching them. But clearly, it wasn't winning philosophies or winning baseball. And then here's more of the fluff from NBC Sports Chicago. This is the writer speaking, not Jerry Reinsdorf. Getz knows the White Sox. He's run their farm system since 2017, filling and developing today's major league roster from the minor leagues since he shifted front offices from the KC Royals. Getz has full autonomy, except when it comes to spending money, too. Wow. I mean, we talk about the lowest of lows. It just keeps getting worse. I don't see any hope or light at the end of the tunnel or anything encouraging. I see nothing here. I see nothing of value, nothing of note. I just see continued mediocrity. So be it, I guess. Hey, I'm not even a fan. I'm covering this as down the middle as I can. I just feel for White Sox fans who are diehard fans, who do go to the field every year and spend some money because they're buying and they're consuming an inferior product. And I'll use Brett Boone's words when he talked about the Yankees on this program. It's true about the White Sox. They are an inferior product. They are beyond an inferior product. And until they get somebody up there who knows how to run a baseball team and develop prospects, they're going to continue to be an inferior product. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me with some of these quotes. You got to be kidding me with the media coverage surrounding it. It's pretty bad all around. I mean, it's really bad. I mean, this is sad. The quotes that I've read here from the author of this article, this is sad stuff, guys. I have no sympathy and I have no interest in giving Chris Getz any slack or any rope because you know what? He used all that up when all these guys became busts. He used up any slack he had when every prospect except Luis Robert sucks. That's a fact. That's a fact, too, and nobody could dispute me on it. You show me 2 Chris Getz success stories, and I will listen. But you can only show me 1, and that's Luis Robert. You can't show me even 2. You can't even show me 5. And this guy's been running minor league development and operations since 2017. 6 years. And you can only show me 1 success story at best, and it's partial because he came from Cuba already. He was already talented. He was already going to be great. Luis Robert. This is sad. This is a dark point for the organization. And White Sox fans, be on alert because it may only get worse. This is really, really, really bad. And I hope all of you are able to endure what's to come because it's not going to be pretty. There's no way. Unless somehow, some way, Jerry spends $300 million a la Steve Cohen and the Mets, and they buy up the best talent in Major League Baseball right now, it is not going to work. Not with this guy running things. Not with this baseball mind developing these players. It's not going to work. If it would work, he wouldn't even be in this position because Rick and Kenny wouldn't have been fired. Chris Getz rose from the point in which he was by mediocrity. All these players didn't work out. Rick and Kenny got the boot, and then Getz gets promoted. It's a top-down approach, and everybody should have been gone. And instead, Jerry kept Chris, and I'm not looking forward to what the White Sox are going to be doing in the next couple of years. This is tough. This is heartbreaking. This is depressing for White Sox fans, and I feel your pain. And my hope is that things get better, but don't count on it. Bad move by the White Sox. Thanks for watching today's show here on Sports Talk Chicago. Appreciate all of you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel for more Chicago White Sox and Chicago sports content. Follow us on over at Sports Talk Chicago. Big thank you to John Meadows directing and producing. And hit up our sponsor, Amish Country Farms in Orland Park. Link is down below. So long, everyone.